your faith is all spiritual. It's all in your mind. It's all me and Jesus, and me and God, and it all operates up here in the area of theoretical. That's what Sebelius is saying. She's a Gnostic. Her faith only resides in her heart and her mind, and it has nothing to do with the real objective world. It's all abstract. That was a heresy, and if she had said that a couple centuries ago, she would have been not only thrown out of the church like she's been excommunicated, but it would have been burned at the stake.
Isn't that convenient to okay, I believe this, but I'm going to do this, and then you don't have to be accountable and.
Well, let me ask you
do what you want
to. When she says that my job as governor requires me to take certain positions and to do certain things that are in conflict with my faith, and I'll set my faith aside in order to do this job, how is this different than a woman who says, oh yeah, I'm a porn star and a prostitute and I do a lot of horrible things, but that's separate from my Christian faith. I'm still a good, Bible-believing, washed in the blood of Jesus Christian. I just happen to be a prostitute, and those are totally separate. The moment you start separating these things out and then choosing your job, you are exactly what you said. This woman's a heretic.
Right. See, for me, it's ironic. Here's a person, has no respect for God, has no respect for human beings, and she is placed over health and human services? Right. To me, that shows a question of the person that appointed her there.
Right.
What are we talking about?
Well, meanwhile,
that means he has a very wicked agenda, or he's a sorry leader.
Right.
Or both.
You would never put somebody who has no respect for human beings and no respect for God in a position that's called health and human services. No. Because you know what you're getting ready to put upon the people.
But Johnny, don't these people, again, going back to what I said a moment ago, don't they understand that when you say, here's my Christian faith and here's my job, and in order to do my job, I've got to set my Christian faith aside, don't they understand what they're choosing?
Yeah, well, the truth of it is they have no Christian faith. They were lying when they said it.
Right. That's exactly what this woman was doing. Absolutely.
Meanwhile, across the pond over in India, technically it's been illegal to tell couples the sex of their unborn child or to base an abortion on the sex of the child. Right. However, the feminist population control, they're stumped by the off-kilter ratio boys to girls. Don't you want to go, duh, because everybody wants boys. But anyway, the campaign to protect female fetuses presents complicated moral questions for defenders of abortion rights, because it's a conflict. I'm going,
wait a minute.
What?
These feminists, the defenders of abortion rights, are having a moral problem?
Yeah.
They don't have morals. They can't have a moral problem. But wait a minute. And everybody's saying, well, and we've even had these proposals around this country about outlawing sex selection abortion. You cannot outlaw sex selection abortion, because if somebody's going to say, I found out I'm pregnant with a girl and I don't want a girl, I want a boy, right, I'm going to have an abortion, right, they just wouldn't tell the doctor that's the reason. They'll say, I'm just not ready to be a mom right now. Oh, that's your right to choose, right? Mm-hmm. But the fact is, these so-called, they're not feminists, they're the neo-feminist movement that I call it, because the original feminists were all pro-life and they understood what abortion was. But this neo-feminist movement defends legalized abortion, even in the cases of sex selection, when the reality is worldwide it's been proven the vast majority of times when a sex selection abortion occurs, it's to kill a female baby.
Right.
And so this little girl's only sin was that she would grow up to be a woman, and here these so-called women's groups are defending her execution.
But I got to key in on the positive aspect of this, because let's think back 10, 15 years ago. There was never a moment when the other side, the feminist movement, would concede that what was residing inside of a womb was a child.
Right.
Would even resemble a child. Remember, it was a clump of cells, a blob of tissue, a realignment of a menstrual cycle was the effect of an abortion.
The parasite was the one I remember.
Yeah, there you go. And so now they're saying, yes, it is a baby, and we can tell that it's a boy or a girl. I'm sorry, a clump of cells isn't a boy or a girl clump of cells. Right. It is a baby, so I think that's their moral dilemma. They've got to concede our argument, and this is why we're consistently winning across the board, is because the other side has to capitulate again and again and again and back up to the point where Planned Parenthood a couple weeks ago in Kansas City said, we're pro-life. The things that we're doing are pro-life. I about fell off my chair.
Right. because they understand that that's the high moral ground.
That's the high moral ground. That's where the country is going. That's where the polls are showing that we're winning again and again. So this, I mean, I know it's terrible, but let's take the good side here is that we're winning the argument against these purveyors of death.
Finally, the feminist group is seeing their own hypocrisy.
Yeah.
You know, I've always said it. Why in the world would they support abortion? You're killing off your own, you know, own people, your own women.
Yeah. Right.
You know, this traffic in other women now and use them as sex slaves because there aren't enough of them and enough women. Yeah, nice. It all back up on that high moral ground, right? It gets higher.
Rights.
They never listen again.
If they're not born, they don't have rights.
They never cared about women's rights.
That's true.
They never cared about women's rights. This was a political deal, and it goes back to what we identified in Alpha 21.
Yes.
Abortion was, the legalization of abortion had nothing to do with women's rights. It had nothing to do with privacy. It had nothing to do with choice or reproductive freedom or any of that nonsense. Those are all marketing slogans that they use to justify it. The legalization of abortion was about eugenics, and we proved that beyond a shadow of a doubt in Alpha 21. It was about eugenics. The Supreme Court justice now has come out and agreed. The sitting most pro-abortion person on the United States Supreme Court says, yeah, we legalized abortion to get rid of all these populations of people that we didn't want too many of. And the fact is, all of this stuff about women's rights was a smokescreen to cover up what the real agenda here was. But I think that smokescreen is beginning to clear, and we're certainly seeing it with the success we're having.
With Alpha 21, it is not only cleared, it is it's
booming.
It's waking up some eyes. It's
Well,
we'll talk about it later.
We'll talk about it a little bit later in the show. Well, you know, again, like we said, we ran out of time. We've got
I got
10,
3 more things
I got 3 or 4 more myself. But it's amazing how much stuff is going on out there right now. I wish we just had time to get to all of it, but we don't. We'll be right back. A few weeks ago, a 39-year-old Nebraska man became alarmed upon learning that his girlfriend was pregnant. The fact that his girlfriend was 14 years old apparently caused him to start having visions of spending the next few decades in a 6x8 cell with some love-starved 350-pound thrill killer. Hoping to avoid that, this genius came up with a plan, and a fine one it was. First, he recruited one of his own children to be a lookout while he stole a $300,000 painting of the Virgin Mary from a nearby Catholic church. Then he drove his girlfriend to Mexico, where he sold the painting for pennies on the dollar to pay for an abortion. But it seems that this guy had not done all his homework, and he didn't know that such an abortion could not be legally obtained in Mexico. So next, he began trying to place the baby for adoption, but that scheme also fell through. So let's recap. A man of almost 40 gets a 14-year-old girl pregnant, uses one of his own children to stand guard while he steals a picture of the Virgin Mary from a Catholic church. Then he takes the 14-year-old out of the country where he sells the painting to pay for an abortion that wasn't available anyway. Not exactly a Leave It to Beaver kind of story, but you'll be happy to know that it ended on a positive note. After giving birth in Mexico, the 14-year-old and her baby were eventually able to make their way back to Nebraska. The amazing thing is, our hero also returned where he was quickly apprehended and now faces up to 70 years in prison. It appears that returning to the scene of the crime is not necessarily a good idea.
Society can prevent those who are manifestly unfit from continuing their kind. 3 generations of imbeciles are enough. I do not join in the belief that the African is our equal in brain or in heart.
We are paying for and even submitting to the dictates of an ever-increasing, unceasingly spawning class of human beings who never should have been born at all.
The laws of nature require the obliteration of the unfit.
The best way to hate a nigger is to hate him before he is born.
American eugenicists were routinely praising Hitler and holding up the Nazi eugenics program as a model for the United States to copy.
Non-white races must be excluded from America. The red and black races, if left to themselves, revert to a savage or semi-savage state in a short time. The only way possible of decreasing Negro population is by means of controlling fertility. birth control facilities could be extended relatively more to Negroes than to whites, since Negroes are more concentrated in the lower income and education classes.
We hope that the restraint of population growth can come about through voluntary means. But if it does not, involuntary methods will be used.
There should be national sterilization for certain dysgenic types of our population who are being encouraged to breed and would die out were the government not feeding them.
If this movement continues, we soon may be accused of fighting poverty by eliminating the poor and overcoming hunger by removing the hungry.
For all their failures, what the eugenics movement had accomplished was to lay the foundation for the next phase of their plan. And this is where they would find the success that they had been chasing for over 100 years.
Welcome back. As I think probably most people in the country know by now, certainly most pro-lifers, you wouldn't know it from the media, we'll talk about that in a minute, but a man named James Pulliam, pro-lifer in Owasso, Michigan, was shot and killed by what I would call a pro-choice activist up there. Drove by, didn't like his sign apparently, and shot and killed him on the street. And here's a man in his mid-60s, had leg braces on, had some physical problems, breathing through a oxygen tank at the time, and this scumbag drives by and shoots and kills him. And you know, I think this story, if anything I ever saw exhibited what the media in this country is about, this story did. Nothing. And what little coverage it's got, I've got this story here in the from the Detroit News about it. This heading, murdered anti-abortion activist provoking until the end.